Hey, what's up, everybody? Jump Rope to Freedom. Welcome back to the channel. Today's podcast guest is Dave Hunt. Dave is a former naval officer, but he is most well known as the CEO of Crossrope, one of the biggest jump rope brands out there. So we sat down and talked about jump rope fitness programming, double unders, how to build muscle with jump rope, and we also talked about the impetus of Crossrope and how Crossrope came to be. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. All right, peace.
Hey, Dave. Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time, man. I'm really looking forward to talking with you. I'm sure everyone who watches the channel is going to be excited to hear from you and everything you have to say.
I hope so, it's so funny at this point, right? Because it's kind of like this all just started, 8 years ago? And it's kind of like the thought that people would want to listen to what I have to say about jump rope is sort of weird and funny and flattering, but it's cool. So thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to learning a lot from you. I mean, the first question that I have for you that I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to know is, what's your story behind jump rope and how did you get started with jump rope?
Yeah, as far back as I can remember, I mean, I'm sure I used a jump rope as a kid at various points like we did, but it wasn't like a big thing, or I wasn't a jump roper as a kid. The story that I remember is when I was a sophomore in college, I got invited by a couple of friends to go on this spring break trip. And I was on the track and field team, and I was pretty hardcore about my training, very competitive, very intent on, improving myself, getting new personal records, things of that nature. And I had a guy on my team say, "Are you seriously going on spring break? Like, you're not going to train with the team like that? What sort of dedication does that show to the team?"
Yeah.
And so I felt a little caught off guard. Like, I am really dedicated to the team. So right in the moment, I said, well, you know what? When I go on spring break, I'm still going to train. I'm going to bring a jump rope with me. It was just like the first thing that kind of came to mind. And I did. So here I was down in Mexico. I think the only spring breaker actually, working out and using a jump rope, but it was cool, right? Like I felt like I was getting a good workout.
Yeah.
It was something where I could feel like I was still, being a team player and working and training. And, I came back, and in my defense, like, I had a pretty decent outdoor track and field season. So it was kind of like a little bit of vindication, and it planted the seed around, like, actually jumping rope is like a good exercise, right? I hadn't thought about it that much before, but I got good workouts. I was a sprinter and a jumper. So it kind of matched, that sort of jump rope training kind of matched well. And, from there, it just became more and more of a staple of my normal workout routine, where I hadn't considered it as much before.
Sure. That is fascinating. So you just thought of jump rope kind of out of the blue, and you just were like, I'll take a jump rope with me. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was completely, I felt like I was on the spot. So I can't say like I had planned that, but because I got called out, I wanted to sort of prove my dedication, because I was dedicated, but I understood there was other people on the team that were like training through spring break, and it set this impression that you weren't taking it seriously. So even though I wanted to have that one extra step, and a jump, there wasn't gyms where I was. So a jump rope was just the first thing I thought of as kind of like a way to get a workout that I could bring with me that was portable.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you remember what kind of rope you took with you?
I remember it was just like one of those like foam handle, probably like 5mm PVC. It wasn't like a Freestyle, or it wasn't anything fancy. It was just, what you might I probably got it at like the local sporting goods store, or, wherever, online shopping wasn't as much a thing back in that day. But yeah, I think it was just like, if you think about one of those like black PVC with the foam handles, probably had some bearings in it or something. And yeah, it was like $20 jump rope, and got good workouts with it.
Oh, that's interesting. And so you took that with you, and then you kept going through it in the military when you joined the Navy. So how did you work your jump rope fitness routine in with the military type PT? Because I know with, at least on the Army side, jump rope is not part of PT at all, physical training at all.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. It was not a part of my sort of standard PT. Like for us, it was the physical readiness test. So it was push-ups, sit-ups, and the 1.5 mile run.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like baked into the required training. But the thing is like when I graduated, I really missed the competitive elements of track and field. And I was still training and working out as if I was a competitive athlete. And so what I would do is even outside of my physical readiness training, I was creating my own workout programs. It was a mix of lifting and plyometric exercises and cardiovascular training. And the jump rope it became kind of like almost its own facet of my training, right? So like, even if I was lifting or doing plyometrics, I'd always carve something out for jump rope training just because I felt like, I mean, it's it's all the good stuff that we know, right? It's the coordination, it's the footwork, it's the cardiovascular. And I'm not knocking other forms of cardio. It's just not my thing quite as much, right? The standard, hey, 30 minutes an hour, you're supposed to do it because it's good for your heart health and your conditioning. But for jumping rope, the reason why it sort of became my go-to cardio was because I could kind of create these little mini challenges, right? How many jumps in a row can I do? What new trick could I do? How many double unders could I do? And so that just became kind of more and more of a thing in my routine, where instead of it being this thing that I had to do, I sort of would plan it out and look forward to it. So when I was programming my workouts, I'd like set little goals or personal records. And so that just kind of played in with this, even though I'm not competing anymore, I still am going to train and work out as if I am and kind of compete with myself. And so jumping rope just in the military, even though it didn't play in directly to the physical readiness test, it definitely helped me stay in shape so that I would go into those tests and I'd get like good 1.5 mile times without doing any running. Yeah. I'm not saying that always happens. I'm not recommending that. I'm a big believer in like sports specific training. Like if you want to get better at running, run. Yeah. But considering the fact that I wasn't running at all and just jumping rope and could still, was still in good shape for those runs. And that was like the only time I had to run. I was pretty happy because in the meantime, I was just training, on my own program.
Yeah, I agree with you on if you want, so something like running, you gotta run to run, but you do have a good point with jump rope can help you with the run. I mean, my fastest time I ever got on the 2 mile run was like an 11:40, and that was right after I had started jump rope. And I thought that it really helped me take off quickly, and I just had all this energy. I think I can attribute it to the jump rope, but I mean, you're right about that though.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get off track, but I think on that topic, we're super careful with regard to claims that we make around the product and fitness and things of that nature. And so, you won't find anywhere on our website, jump with Crossrope to get a better mile time or a 2 mile time. But what is interesting, I'm surprised the number of customers that say, hey, I added Crossrope to my routine in training for a 5K or training for a triathlon or whatever it is. And I really feel that it was instrumental in me getting that new best time or setting a new record. So it's anecdotal, but there's more than I would have expected. And I think, from my personal experience, if you're supplementing other training and workout routines with jump rope, with weighted ropes, with cross rope, people are getting good results. So we won't like claim anything scientific or formal about it, but I think that there's some pretty decent evidence to support our experiences,
Oh, I agree. And one thing I like what you said about the jump rope when we were talking about the military and kind of incorporating in there is that you were using different ways that you knew would work for you to keep going. So setting challenges, and you said something about and you said that you created it in your mind to where it was something you looked forward to. And I think that's really key for people to remember, whether it's jump rope, running, anything, you got to enjoy it. You got to create that in your mind.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's part of the thing. Like we're really thinking so hard, especially this year, about, as a brand and a product, how we want to make people feel, right? Like it matters. And what just keeps on coming up over and over again is joy. It's coming up in reviews and customer stories. There's sort of like when people think jump for joy, whenever you think jumping, it sort of elicits this thought of happiness. And so that was my personal experience. My personal experience was there was just something that was like a rush when I learn a new skill or, set a new record in double unders. And so it keeps you coming back, right? It keeps you coming back. And so I think part of the inspiration for me on, with Crossrope was what I had mentioned before is, how come more people aren't doing this, right? Like this is fun. This is good. Like, how can I spread the word and get more people interested in it? Because if you don't, there's like some interesting studies about willpower, and willpower takes too much energy and it doesn't last, right? So if you hate working out and you hate cardio, you might be able to do it for a couple weeks, but we've all tried to do things that we hate for a long period of time in the name of like discipline and willpower. And it's just human nature. Like, it's tough to stick with it. So you got to find stuff that you're going to enjoy. You don't need to love it every time. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but that was the thing. I mean, I just, and to this day, I mean, I still, like I have mentioned, I mean, I'm still jumping and using the app and creating new workouts and thinking of new ways to challenge myself. And the running joke, even within Crossrope, is we're thinking through new workouts and app features and challenges. Is if nobody else likes it, selfishly, if I like it, it's worth it, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's good though. That is good. And that leads me to the next question is, what was the impetus and the story behind starting Crossrope and building it to what it is today?
Yeah. Well, funny enough, like sometimes I think you're just sort of wired a certain way. And I feel like I was always just wired to be an entrepreneur. And when I go back and look at some things, the types of things that I was interested in as a kid and the types of activities and just problem solving and trying new things and being creative, it all ties in. And in 2001, when I was still in college, I actually had thought I was taking a systems engineering course, and I had thought of this concept for a vertical jump measuring device. I did high jump. I played volleyball. I did basketball. I've always loved jumping. Like way before Crossrope, I just always loved jumping. And I didn't end up, it wasn't the right time, right? I didn't end up moving forward on it. And the funny thing is, since then, what I had in mind has actually been created. And I met the founder of that product through like a mutual connection. So I was like that guy that was like, hey, I thought of that, like, but it wasn't like a regret for not doing it. It was like an appreciation that he had actually brought this like vertical jump measuring device to market. So I think the reason why I share that is that there was always this interest in kind of like doing my own thing, and certainly appreciated all the amazing people, challenges, experiences of my time in the Navy. But along, throughout the course of my career, I still kind of had this itch to do something combining entrepreneurship and fitness. And so I had mentioned in 2008, 2010, when I was overseas, was actually the very first time that I had experienced weighted jump ropes. And it was, I don't know if you've seen them before, but it was the ones where it's like that thick rubber tubing that sort of connects to the, to the foam handles. And wow, what a great workout. I was like, how have I not, like, I had been into jump rope for a couple years and had never seen these anywhere. And so, after a couple weeks of jumping, that's when I started to get into the heavy rope double unders and things of that nature. The problem was, like, I kept on breaking the ropes. Not like, and I'm not like bragging or anything. It's just like I feel like they were not meant to rotate at double under speed with the heavy ropes. And so in a couple weeks, I broke all 3 of the weighted ropes at the base gym. Took a while. They didn't reorder any. I got home from deployment, started going online and ordering other heavy ropes, and they just kept on breaking. And I told you I had like an engineering background. So it's one of these things where it's like, I mean, I feel like I could engineer something better than this. Like, I don't know if I can or not, but I feel like it's maybe worth a shot. And so in 2011, I was bench pressing. I tore my pectoral muscle bench pressing. I had to get it. I don't recommend it. Very painful, not fun, very demoralizing, right? Because now I couldn't fly in the Navy. I couldn't work out. And, I've been married for a couple months. My poor wife had to like take care of me, sitting on the couch, just, a couple months after we got married. And so I thought to myself, you always hear about like the lemons to lemonade stories.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I I hate to say it, I was a little skeptical. Like I'd roll my eyes on that sort of stuff, right? Like, can't we just say this is really bad and
Yeah.
like just let me do the
Oh, that's
rest,
hilarious. Yeah.
right? You know, but
Yeah.
I tried to kind of like
Mhm.
counter that mindset and say, you know what, I've always said I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, so like there's probably no better time than now to do it, right? Like I can't uh, be active in my professional career. I can't work out. How can I put my energy and my restlessness to good use? So I started jotting down a couple ideas, and I think the jump rope piece of it, um, the aha moment was around the weighted jump ropes that I had used, just not being able to find something that was the right quality, and then seeing that there was some good existing products out there that performed well, but you know, you get what you pay for, right? So if you want good quality, you know, handles, that's where it gets expensive. So the thought was, hey, you know, what if you have good quality handles that are designed to manage different weights of ropes, and you can swap in and swap out different weights of ropes? Like, what, you can adjust the resistance in most exercise, why not jump rope, right? Like that was kind of like, so I was you know, scouring Google looking like, is there an interchangeable jump rope system? It just seems like something that would make sense to be out there. If there is, I'll buy it, you know, like, so,
Yeah.
and I'll pursue some other, you know, entrepreneurial thing. But I couldn't really find anything that had kind of this, you know, quick change, you know, concept around it. And so that was a little bit of the, I think the aha moment. And when I was running some of these ideas by my wife, like that was, she's you know, like my best critic in a good way. Like
Yeah.
she'll keep me honest with ideas, and she's like, you know what, I could see that being interesting, right? Like that kind of makes sense to have an interchangeable, you know, weighted jump rope system. And so that was in 2011. That was kind of the idea. And then for the first year, from 2011 to 2012, it was just a one-man show, right? Like I was going to Lowe's and Home Depot to try to construct things on my own. Some people know, like the very first version of the product was literally made out of deconstructed nunchucks. You know, so this was like as basic as it could get, just
Man,
to try
that's
to
awesome.
figure it out, you know, on my own to bootstrap it. And, you know, there wasn't some big, you know, huge investment or some big, you know, some big amount of money. It was just trying to figure out, hey, can I create something that, just to sort of test if this might be interesting to other people. So I'll pause there. I mean, that's kind of like the, you know, the initial stories of how it came to be.
No, that's great. I like the part about you taking advantage of the time where you were down with the injury to start coming up with concepts. Because when you have an injury, like I've never had an injury like that, but the temptation is to just be like, feel sorry for yourself and to not want to do anything. So respect to you on that one. And that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, and to be clear, I was feeling sorry for myself for a
Yeah.
couple, for a couple of weeks. And then, you know, I mean, when there's a long recovery thing, you know, it's like I could feel sorry for myself for 6 months, or, you know, I can kind of get past it and try to do something. And again, I'm calling myself out. Like I was the biggest skeptic of the lemons to lemonade thing, you know, just like the silver lining, you know, find the silver lining, be positive, the obstacle is the way. And I'd be the first to roll my eyes. And I'm a little ashamed and embarrassed to say that, but you know, it's just, it is what it is. And so it's so strange to feel like I am grateful for this injury, because the injury is literally what paved the path for the Crossrope opportunity. And it's just, it's crazy to even say and think about that, you know?
Yeah, but that's great. That's a lot of times that's how things work out is you get faced with this, like you said, the obstacle is a way. I think that by Ryan Holiday,
Yep.
it's a stoic philosophy, I think, from Marcus Aurelius, but it's true though. It's like those things that happen, you end up looking back on it like 10 years later and you say to yourself, that's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. You almost want to say, like, I'm a Ryan Holiday fan as well. I like that book. And it's like, until you experience it, it just kind of seems like a load of crap, right? Like, come on, really? Like, can't we just say that this is bad?
Yeah.
But you do see it and you hear stories and it's real. And so like I'm a full-fledged believer now, you know, and I've taken that principle and kind of extended it along the Crossrope journey and with the team and what we're trying to do. I mean, anybody that's done anything entrepreneurial knows that there's highs and there's lows and there's good times and there's bad. And if you really own that mindset, it just opens doors that aren't there if you know, if you quit and give up.
Absolutely. When you were starting with jump rope and as you've progressed in your skills, I mean, I've seen videos of you doing like 630 double unders in a row and all that. That's amazing. Which tricks did you learn in the beginning, and what was your progression like as you became a more skilled jumper?
Yeah, let me see. I think like if I go back, you know, if I go back and think through the early days, I think it was just kind of like trying to jog your memory for any old boxing videos and what were some of the moves. So I think basic jump, jump rope jacks where you just start kind of moving your feet in different directions are the good ones to start with. A couple arm crosses that probably didn't look too slick at the time, but at least you see the wide arms and just trying to swing it all the way through. But you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, you got to.
Double unders was like kind of one that I gravitated towards early, just because enjoying the jumping and the coordination and the intensity of it. Alternate footstep was one, just kind of running. Those were some of the I think the main ones early on. The first one that I remember starting to pick up that just made me feel more kind of like a ninja when I was jumping is I don't know what the official, you'd think I'd know by now, but people call it different things. I call it like the side under. So where you go like left side, right side, and then underneath your feet, left side, right side, underneath your feet, and then swap it out. And that was the one that I think just really got me hooked, because it's not that hard to do, and you can do it really fast. And as soon as you learn how to do that fast, like you just feel, at least I do, you feel like a ninja, right? Like you feel like you are an amazing jumper. And so I just remember that being an early one, even in like the Crossrope prototyping days, where I couldn't wait to get to the gym just to kind of do that side and a couple doubles. And I think it's still probably one of my favorite little moves and skills to throw in.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. That's one. I think that Buddy Lee uses that as his base, that side swing and jump. Because it's such, like you were saying, it's such a simple move once you get it. But if you can do it fast, it looks a lot more impressive than it is to do, than how difficult it is to do.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Buddy Lee does everything fast, so everything that he does looks incredibly impressive. Yeah. He's one person. I have not met Buddy Lee, and I always feel like at some point in time we'll, cross circles or whatever the case may be. But I had mentioned before kind of this idea of it's just, he definitely was a trailblazer in bringing attention to jumping rope, and kind of, I think it's almost like, when you look even at some of the old YouTube videos and stuff like that from years and years ago, anywhere he went was like an instant show, right? And everybody was so amazed. And so I think like he, in my opinion, I think he really like paved the path for this interest in, inspiring people around this idea of like jump rope performance and speed and stuff like that. And I think that, so many of us who enjoy jumping rope today owe a lot to Buddy, just for kind of like showing us, sort of like reviving the allure from the old boxing days, right? From Sugar Ray and Muhammad Ali, and then, Mike Tyson and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just in awe of his moves and his speed. And I've always strived to get as fast as I can, but as far as I'm concerned, he's pretty much unmatchable.
Yeah, he's unmatchable. I mean, and some of the stuff, when I see what he's doing, you have to slow it down to even comprehend some of the things that he's doing, because it's just so fast. I mean, you can't see it. Thank goodness for that gear button on YouTube where you can slow it down a little bit, because otherwise it just looks like a bunch of like 10 hands are whirling around in the air and the rope is just going all over the place.
I know.
Yeah, it's great.
To figure it out.
Yeah, he definitely, you're right. He blazed the way. When I first saw him jump, I never knew that you could do anything like that with a jump rope. It was amazing, and it inspired me too. Yeah, that's awesome. So as far as jump ropes go, when you were moving up in skills and even up till now, what's the best and your most favorite jump rope that you've used up to now, and why?
I think, it's always a tough question, right? Because I think it kind of depends on the flavor of the week or the use or the application. So I don't want to sound kind of like I'm copping out of the answer.
Sure.
I think if I had to choose one sort of combination, it would be the slim handles with the 1/2 pound rope. And the reason why is I feel like I can still do all of the same freestyle moves that I can do with a lighter rope, but there's just that challenge and that heft that I know I'm still getting like a full body and an upper body workout. Certainly, I mean, I think some of the heavier performance ropes that we have are fun because they're just really crisp, really fast. You can kind of challenge like speed step and double under in a way that kind of challenges your whole body. I certainly like to use the 1/4 pound rope a lot. Definitely other, obviously there's other brands of ropes that I've used before. So I've used, and I like Buddy Lee's ropes. I like, RX. I like RPM. I don't know if it's bad for me to be saying this, but look, like I mentioned, it's sort of like one team, one fight, right? Like
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I just don't have bad things for the most part, to say about other, ropes or companies, because at the end of the day, I think everybody has their own perspective and flavor on the way that they're trying to deliver the value and the experience to customers. And so, I would expect that a lot of others have used Crossrope and they might have things that they like and they don't like about it, and that's perfectly fine. But I think like all of those lighter weight ropes, look, if they've got bearings and they spin well, they're great and I can use them and I like them. But I do feel that like overall versatility in the way that I jump and I train, and obviously I'm biased, but I designed the product the way that I wanted it for the way that I use it, right? And that's kind of how it started. And so like, the core set of ropes that we have are just kind of, my favorite, depending on the style of workout that I'm doing, whether it's like higher intensity or whether there's kind of some more freestyle. I haven't gotten hardcore into the tricks. I think you're kind of asking about the skill progression. Look, there's kind of like this jump rope as a sport. And so this is my philosophy on it. First of all, tons of respect for anyone that can do a double backflip and a triple under with a jump rope, or can, do a circus act and move incredible things, right? Like I could never do that. I'm in awe. And like, there's a lot of respect. There's a lot of credibility around learning the skill. So that's the first thing. The thing I think is, again, it's sort of like, what is an individual's objective with regard to jump rope? If you are interested in looking to learn a range of very advanced and tricky skills, don't come to me. Like I'm not the person to come. I'm not going to be able to, I don't even know the names of half the moves. And I'll be the first one to tell you that. Right. I think, I've always been drawn in towards what I'd call like performance-based skills. And I'm not saying that those advanced skills don't require a high level of athleticism and performance. They do. But things like, multiples or various speed skills, or things where, the amount of time that I have to invest to learn the skill is not so much that it's taking away from the limited time that I have to be fit and to work out. And that's going to be different for different people. But for that reason, I think probably the most advanced skill that I've learned that I've liked is quadruple under, because it's a multiple. It takes a high level of, speed and coordination, a high level of bounding. Certainly not the best in the world at quadruple unders. I think there's somebody that did like a septuple under, like 7 in a row, which is just like, I can't even imagine what that is. But I do feel good about, the practice and the athleticism and the challenge. I think the best I ever strung together was like 14 quadruple unders. And so I don't do it all the time. I don't do it every day. In fact, I probably haven't done it in a little while. So, don't have me do it live on video right now. But that's probably the most challenging one that I've learned.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough. So, I mean, there's people who do quads, but they're you have the competitive ones where you're doing 2 swings and then something else, but 4 revolutions actually under you. Both are difficult, but
yeah.
That is, wow. That's amazing. That's something I got to work on too. I mean, I saw your video. I think it's you in this video. 630 something double unders. What was that's an insane amount. I mean, that's a lot of double unders in a row with no mistake. So what did your plan and progression look like to get to the point where you could do that many double unders in a row? Because that takes an extreme amount of coordination, cardio strength, and muscular strength, upper body strength. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I never like to be necessarily like self-deprecating, but I will say like, I feel great about that. And again, I'm in awe of certain people that have done even more than that. So I like everyone to know by no means am I the best in the world, but like you're saying, there's not a whole lot of people that, have been able to or can string, 600 doubles. And by the way, that was with a 3-ounce rope. That wasn't with, like a super light speed rope. So early on in the business, I felt that the main way to get credibility for the effectiveness of the product was that if I could demonstrate through my use as just like a normal person that it worked for me and I improved, that it would give credibility. Like that was like my strategy at the beginning. So the main thing is like, there was this idea, the initial idea, around Crossrope was a lot around double under performance. And so the concept was, well, if you're just like anything else, if you're progressively adding resistance, if you're training with gradually heavier resistance, then it stands to reason that when you go back down to lighter resistance, that you'll be able to increase your endurance and speed because it's easier. So in the first year and a half, including kind of like my prototype testing with Crossrope, before I started, my max double under record was 80. So in 2012, the most I could do unbroken with a good, speed rope was 80 double unders. And so what I did as a part of my programming and sort of like the Crossrope prototype testing is I would take half of my, and I think I posted a blog post on this, but I'd take half of my record, my personal record, and I would do 3 sets of that with the next heavier weighted rope up in the sequence. So for example, what I do is we had a 3-ounce rope and then a 5-ounce rope. So as part of my workout, I would try to do 40 unbroken double unders for 3 sets with rest in between with the 5-ounce rope. And then the next workout, I would see if I could do like 45 with the 5-ounce rope. And then I'd go back a couple weeks later and I'd test to see if I could get a new record with the 3-ounce rope. And I was like pretty consistently. So that next time I tried, I got like 110. And so then I kind of applied that to like the next weight up. And I said, all right, well, what about a 5-ounce rope? Like, can I work my way up to a 3/4 pound rope? Which is a pretty big jump. But hey, what do you know? You get that thing moving fast enough, you can do doubles with it. So it was 3/4 pound. Then it was 1 1/4 pound. And I remember like the very first range of Crossrope weights was 3-ounce, 5-ounce, 3/4 pound, 1 1/4 pound, 2 pound, and 3 pound. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I wonder what's the heaviest rope I could do double unders with, like maybe 3/4 pound, maybe 1 1/4 pounds. And what was like mind blowing to me is within a year, I was like stringing double unders together with a 3-pound rope, something that I would have thought was just like completely impossible. And so that was a part of the training and the journey. And so along the way, I'd periodically retest how many I could do with a 3-ounce rope. And that was the progression that I used to getting to over 600 with a 3-ounce rope. So I think like we have a blog post that basically talks through like a sequence and a program and a series where you're using that progressively heavier resistance. But I feel very strongly, even though you can certainly improve double unders with programming for the same weight of rope, in my personal experience, there was just something about the feedback, the coordination, the feel, the challenge, and the resistance by varying the weights that to me felt like it accelerated my ability to string more and more together. And so that's how I, got up over 600.
So it sounds a lot like weight training. You just try to get to that next step and you do it in small increments over a good period of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think sometimes it's funny because I remember, early on when there was kind of, Crossrope and there was the 7 weights, people were like, why? Don't I just need a jump rope? And I think to myself, I'd never be I'd never make like rude remarks or whatever, but I was thinking like, well, why do you need anything besides a 5-pound dumbbell then? Right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
just do 500 reps of bench press with the 5-pound dumbbells, right? Because that's, and I get that jumping rope is different. I'm not saying it's exactly the same as weight training, but again, I've found that, it is a dynamic movement where you're stabilizing the weight. It's rotating around your body. So there's that centripetal force. And, we've seen within our customers and within those who have individually experienced it, like other things, go figure. If you add resistance, you're going to get stronger at that movement, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying like if you can do 50 double unders with a 2-pound rope, it's going to increase your deadlift, right? Like we don't make, like if you want to increase, and I like to deadlift. So if I want to increase my deadlift, I do deadlift programming. But, jumping rope itself, same as other resistance-based exercises. If you add weight and you can do it in a safe way, and you're using the proper form and the technique, you'll get stronger and you'll have, good overall full body and athletic benefits from it.
Yeah, I really do. I do admire the way that you tie in the science and the engineering and your engineering background to this, because what it does is it makes it more believable. And it provides evidence to people who are skeptical about jump rope that it really can work for you. So, yeah.
No, I appreciate that. Again, like we always try, at some point, maybe we'll have the funds to go out and get some like big third-party independent study. We did actually, I had almost forgotten about this, but the University of Oklahoma did do a PhD level study comparing, specifically using our ropes, comparing heavy ropes to light ropes. And the results of that study were very positive across a number of different strength-based metrics. So we have like some legit studies. We just, and it was independent, like we didn't pay them any money to do it. They were just doing the study. But I think the main thing again is I always just want to be careful with the claims that we make, because we don't need to make crazy claims. There's a couple things, one of the things you see a lot of stats and information thrown out around like jump rope calorie burn, right? So I'll tell everyone if they're curious where that comes from. There's this thing called the compendium of physical activities. And this is like a global study by scientists from around the world. And what they do is they take measurements, all sorts of different places and resources and people, of various physical activities, from walking to, playing tennis to playing golf to you name it. Like there's literally thousands of activities. And what they do is that they scientifically measure the metabolic equivalent of that activity. And so they call it METs. And then based on the metabolic equivalent, the calorie burn rate is going to be determined on somebody's weight, on somebody's body mass, on their sex, on their age, all these different factors. And so what they do is they basically say, hey, the one thing that's constant is the average METs for all of these exercises. So when if you've ever heard that stat, like 10 minutes of jumping rope is equivalent to a 30-minute jog. Yeah. That came from that study because they basically found that if you're doing a really slow jog, the metabolic equivalent is quite a bit less than an intense jump rope session. So when we say things about calories, right, we're basing it off of this study that everybody else is using. And then we feel pretty strongly that if you add weight to the rope, it's going to increase the metabolic equivalent if you can maintain that intensity rate, right? So like jumping rope is without a doubt proven to be a higher calorie burn exercise because of the nature. Like that is a scientific fact that we didn't make up. And so we use that so that people know, right? People want to know efficient exercises, but we're very, very careful about making other claims. And we kind of say, anecdotally, this is what our customers say, or this is what we've experienced. And we hope and expect that other people will experience that. But I think the point of saying all of that is that sometimes it's just not important to overthink it, right? Like whether you're doing jumping rope or jumping rope with other exercises or whatever the case may be, if you're enjoying it and you're moving and you're burning calories, that's great, right? Better than sit on the couch. Like, don't overthink it, right? Like if it's something, who cares if you're burning a little more or a little less than something else, or if it's not making you as strong as deadlift or bench press. It just kind of depends what somebody's personal goals are. So we try to like market our product and reach audiences in a very high integrity way that's just kind of calling it what it is,
No, I mean, that's the best way to do it, to be authentic and up front. The other thing that kind of relates to what we had talked about it getting stronger is a lot of people think that with jump rope, I mean, you're just going to lose a whole bunch of muscle. You're not going to get any stronger. But I mean, I've seen some of your videos and your upper body is huge. I mean, and your shoulders are obviously not losing any muscle there. So what kind of programming have you done and how have you built muscle using jump ropes?
Yeah, sure. It's another thing, you know me by this point, hopefully, like I'll try to, shoot as straight as I can. So the first thing that I'll start with is I enjoy weightlifting, and I have done some pretty like meaningful weightlifting training through the years. And I do think that weightlifting is probably the best way, to build muscle mass. So that's the first thing that I'll say. The second thing that I'll say is I have not lifted a weight in a year. And I have maintained, if not gained, a little bit of muscle mass, right? So like right now, I think when I had stopped lifting just when Corona hit, and I don't have weights at my house, so my entire regimen has been just crossrope and body weight exercises. When I started, I think I was somewhere in the range of 205 to 210. And I'm at about 213. And I feel like my body mass, my BMI, and my body fat percentage has stayed about the same. So look, again, I'm not making any set claims that I've put on 4 pounds of muscle just because of the weighted cross ropes, but
Yeah.
I might have because I wouldn't necessarily have known or expected that. So I think, again, like when people, I'm not going to purport to be some, PhD level sports scientist that knows everything, but I've done a lot of sort of like, we'll call it like armchair reading. So even when I was in high school, like I got Arnold Schwarzenegger's book out. I got, training and performance, lifting. I know about, the basics of hypertrophy and periodization and nutrition and, plyometric principles. And there's a lot of stuff that I learned and read in my track and field career that I at least have some sense, even if I'm not credentialed. And so what I would challenge people on that say, you can't add or maintain muscle mass with a jump rope is, at the end of the day, what builds muscle mass is the breaking down of muscle fibers from exercise. And if you are doing any sort of exercise that is engaging the muscles at a level where it is providing enough resistance to break down the muscle fibers, and you have good sleep and you hit your macros and you eat your protein, the muscles are going to grow and get bigger, or at least not get smaller, right? So like I'm not making any radical claims here. What I'm saying is jump all out with a 2 or a 3 pound rope for a couple sets, and you will feel your muscles breaking down. And then get good sleep and eat your protein. And by all means, if you want to lift weight and you want to, we like to supplement our workouts with body weight exercises, all the same stuff applies. So I think like usually, again, we're careful on claims. It's just when people speak in absolutes, like you can't build muscle mass with a jump rope. Well, I'm very resistant to absolutes, right? Like you can build muscle mass with a jump rope. We're not saying it's the only way or the superior way or the, whatever the case may be, but just based on general fitness principles around muscle building and things of that nature. That's what we found to be the case. We've seen people in the community before and after challenges with their delts built out. So for sure, I mean, heavy ropes are a big part of my, my routine. And again, like in the past year, I have not touched a weight, and I might have expected to, to possibly lose some muscle mass, but I haven't. And I do attribute that to the upper body in tandem with the, the body weight exercises.
Wow, that is interesting. And yeah, that it's a good point what you're saying about not overthinking it and just putting it in simple terms, that if you are breaking down the muscle and you got the nutrition aspect of it right and you're doing the other things right, then you're going to see most likely you're not going to lose muscle. I mean, so you're going to see gains. So that's good to simplify everything. But speaking of the nutrition piece, I'm interested to know, do you follow a certain diet, and what are your go-to foods, and what does a normal day of eating look like for you?
Yeah. So my wife and I have a joke that we're intermittent fasters.
Yeah.
So that means we don't we don't always
Yeah.
intermittent fast. We intermittently intermittent fast. It's kind of funny because I never liked breakfast, but growing up, you always heard it's the most important meal of the day. And
Yeah.
then when I found out you don't need to eat breakfast, I pretty much don't eat breakfast. So, for me, I'll get up, I'll have a coffee or two. Typically don't eat anything until around lunchtime. I'm not super strict on my diet. And I admittedly have a bit of a sweet tooth. So that's a challenge for me sometimes. But I do use, I found that I do try my best to track macros and calories using the MyFitnessPal app.
Yeah.
I'm not a paid endorser. They're not giving me money. I find that it's a good tool to kind of help, to help kind of keep me honest on the eating habits. And again, like I don't overthink it, right? So I don't need to find the exact brand of whatever it is. If I'm putting something in there and I'm close, I've found that it helps to produce the best results in terms of, body composition and workouts and energy and things of that nature. So again, I don't make any claims on being a strict dietitian. I have a lot of respect for those that put a lot of energy and are very strict and have, very specific methodologies that they use. I've also been around long enough to know that there's kind of like nutrition fads and things kind of come and go, and it's the low fat diet to the Atkins to, to the paleo to the bullet, whatever. And I'm not knocking any of that stuff. It's just like it goes in cycles. And I think the main thing is that if you're trying to eat fewer, complex carbohydrates, fewer sugars, if you have some sense around macronutrients and how to get those the right way, if you're making an effort, I think it can help people get on the right track, which is again why, like from a Crossrope perspective, we don't put any specific nutrition data. We encourage it, and it is a huge part of the equation. I just don't feel as a brand we have the internal expertise to feel high integrity that like we're the ones to come through.
Sure.
For nutrition. And maybe someday, we'll get some internal team members that really are experts and we can kind of help people as a one-stop shop with the training. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. It's still tough. I love brownies. I know they're not the best thing to eat.
Yeah.
Maybe it reflects poorly on me as the Crossrope CEO admitting that, but we all have our vices.
Yeah, I mean, you and I kind of have the same philosophy. I do the intermittent fasting. That was probably one of the breakthrough moments in my life when I realized that breakfast is not necessary. There's no science behind breakfast being the quote most important meal of the day. It's all made up. It really is. It's made up in my mind, to be able to sell, for the food companies to sell you this stuff that's not good for you. So you wake up in the morning and the first thing you eat is a cinnamon toast crunch that's like 50 grams of sugar in it, and that's how you start your day, with your insulin all out of control and all that. And I use MyFitnessPal too. That's why I was pointing, because I use that as well. That's one of the best things.
It's a good tool. It's a great tool. I like it. It's convenient. It's easy to use. They have such a great library there now. So you type something in and it finds it most of the time. So yeah, that's kind of the go-to that I've used. And I find that when I'm using that and I'm consistent with it, it really does produce, better, body fat percentage results. I mean, I'm not training and performing for, any sort of like competition, but I appreciate the comments that you made. Like it's helpful from a credibility standpoint. Like, am I living the lifestyle? Do I care? Am I fit? Am I in shape? Am I somebody that's credible in telling other people that we really believe in this product and I believe in it? The nutrition's got to play into that, right? If I'm massively overweight, then I probably lose a little bit of credibility.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that the other night, about how I think a lot of that credibility and being out in front as the leader of your company, or the leader of in anybody's situation, whatever they do, you have to be out front. If you want anybody to believe in your brand or believe in what you're doing, you have to be about it. You can't just talk about it. You have to be about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun. I've had a couple people that not like within the jump rope community, but that are friends, acquaintances, or other entrepreneurs that I network with, and that have asked me with a straight face if I use the product. Come on, like
Yeah.
I'm offended. I don't get offended by much, but I'm offended by that question.
Yeah, absolutely. That is funny though. Yeah, but you got to be out there. But respect to you for being on the advertisements and being out there using the product, because that does increase the credibility big time, exponentially. So good on you for that.
I appreciate that as well. I think it's good to get that feedback because in the early, one-man show years when I was kind of creating YouTube videos, it's just like you're putting yourself out there, right? And like anybody that's, right? There's you want, maybe you don't, because it seems like all of your comments are super positive and you get way more likes than I ever got. But
Yeah.
but there's always the haters and the people that are saying negative things. And so like it surprises people to know sometimes that I tend to be a little introverted and I don't particularly enjoy being in front of the camera. So the whole thing with like the ads and the founders thing was basically like, Serge, who's our, Serge Popovich, who's our, chief marketing officer, and some of the creative saying, look, a lot of times people do want to hear from the founder and they want the story and you do believe in what you're doing. So like, are you open to doing this? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I don't want to. I'm very like self-conscious and paranoid, but I've heard people say good things and I appreciate the feedback. And I think it inspires me and keeps me motivated, thinking like, it is a good thing to do because, I think myself and my team have the best intent. I shared before, like even when we're looking to hire somebody new on the team, and we run them through a really like in-depth interview process. One of our core values, we have 8 core values. One of our core values is put the customer first, which you might expect for any customer facing organization. But what we say is like, in a hypothetical world, if we had all of our internal meetings recorded, if we had all of our phone calls recorded, all of our Zoom calls recorded, like we got nothing to hide, right? Like people might not always like or agree with the decisions that we make, but we've got nothing to hide and we're genuinely trying to do it in the best interest of the customers and the community. And the unfortunate thing is like sometimes you just can't please everyone. So like one that I'll mention, I wonder if anybody will end up commenting on this if they watch, but we used to have these legacy workouts on our app, right? So like this was like 5 years ago when we just developed an initial app on a shoestring budget with no plan, no framework for what we were going to do. And so there was a small handful of people that still use these legacy workouts. And as we've got these like really grandiose aspirations for the content that we can deliver on the app and the new development and things like that, we got to a point where being able to manage the continued support for the legacy workouts was so cumbersome and time consuming. It was really going to handcuff us on the new features and developments that we want to be able to move quickly to serve more people to give a better experience. Now we've got kind of hammered in the community, and it literally feels like a stab in the heart when I see people commenting like, oh, this is when they used to care about us, like that they don't have the legacy workouts, or oh, Crossrope is just getting so greedy now and things of that nature. And like sometimes I'll post on the community and I'll just be like, you're entitled to your opinion. And I don't want to sound like whiny, or I'm not going to like judge or put anybody down, but it sucks to get those things when you're really trying to do your best and just people don't always have the full context. And so like the behind the scenes, like with that core value of putting the customer first, is like, I'm always willing to have a conversation and share and try to give the why and the best context as much as possible. People still might not agree with it, right? Like you can't always please everyone, but we're genuinely trying to do the best we can to really think, through our customers, to deliver the most value. And like I said, at the end of the day, if you don't like it, then it's a 60-day money back guarantee. We have really good product warranties and guarantees. even when something wasn't covered by warranty, we generally try to do right by the customer if we feel like we didn't meet the expectations. And so, beyond that, what can you do? You can't please everyone, but we try to please as many as possible. And we have, I think it's rewarded us with good reviews and an overall very, very loyal community.
No, I think it has. You're right. You can't please everybody. And I'm sure that if I ever get to the point where I'm as well known in jump rope as Crossrope is, and you are, I'm sure I'm going to get some of the bad comments. But the thing, I remember, this is kind of getting off topic. I remember when I got my first bad comment on YouTube or something, and I got a little bit upset, but then I said, you know what, this is actually a good thing, because that means more people are viewing the videos, and you can actually get some feedback, and you can get perspective from other people who might not enjoy your content. I don't know. It was one of those things. So I tried to frame it in a way like Jocko Willink says, just say good and try to find a good way about it. So yeah.
Yep. Extreme ownership, right?
Yeah, extreme ownership. Yeah. Jocko.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's a good point. I think another thing is like, when there are so many customers that have given and do give tough feedback. And we don't just say, oh, can't please everyone, right? Like we think about it critically and constructively and really think through and take those challenges to heart. So, sometimes, like you said, sometimes the negative comments or the feedback. I was even watching one the other day. I have a double under tutorial that I did a couple of years ago that's like 11 minutes long. And, it's gotten a lot of views and people like it, and I think it's helpful. And one person on there was like, you talk too much. And you know what? Like, that person is right. I do talk too much. And I need to hone my craft to get to the point, right? To get to the point. So I think sometimes if you're willing and open to that constructive criticism, and not just think that people are trolling, it does help you to grow and get better. And you might not get it right away, but it's good to be able to laugh at yourself and, laugh and learn and be able to separate out the stuff that's just the trolling versus the stuff that's useful feedback,
Absolutely. Yeah. Feedback. I always had this saying I got when I was earlier in the military: feedback is a gift. It is, if you can, but you're right. There's a difference between people, irrational trolling, and people who might say something, but you can read between the lines and you can say, wow, that actually is pretty valuable. I might be able to use that to sharpen my skills and get a little bit better at my craft.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one other question I had, so you do a lot, and you're CEO of your company. So who or what inspires you to keep going and keep doing what you do every
day? This might sound like something that, every CEO might say, or maybe not, but it's changed over the years, right? So the first goal was, if I am taking the risk to depart a good and stable career in the military, can this be my full-time job that's enough to put food on the table? And so, that was kind of like the win, right? Like, can there be enough money? We all got to make a living, right? So can there be enough money in it? Then I think, I was sort of grateful around like when I made that transition from the Navy to doing Crossrope full-time, 2016 to 2017, just got really fortunate with getting some good traction in the business. Serge and I connected with the jump rope dudes at that point in time. I don't know if you've connected with Dan and Brandon, but I'll throw in a plug for them. They in person are exactly how they are on their channel, like so genuine, so authentic, so real. I just love them so much. Everything about the relationship that we've had, we've just like worked well and partnered well. And I know sometimes people kind of get like skeptical, like, oh, you're paying those guys to say whatever. They say whatever they want, right? Like we just got a good partnership. And so that was kind of a big thing in that early step to kind of like making this be something that could work. And then as the business grows, the calculus kind of changes a little bit. Like you do start to hear more customer stories. And I think one of the things for me is like, a lot of times you hear these stories about like the CEO is the visionary, right? Like they had this grand vision and these grand plans. I will tell you that where we are right now, I had no idea. This was not a part of the vision. I wish I could take credit and say that it was, but it wasn't. I literally just thought this was going to be like, a better mousetrap, right? Like a different jump rope option. And it's grown into so much more in terms of the community and the content and the workouts and the apps and the products and things like that. And so, on that journey is that has changed. I think there's been these really amazing customer stories. And so one of them, for example, we had a customer, I won't say the individual's name, but he was early on in the community. And he shared with us, he lost 120 pounds using Crossrope as his main thing. But the cool thing is he said, before I lost the weight, my 13-year-old daughter was embarrassed for me to bring her to school because her friends made fun of her because her dad was overweight.
Wow.
And now my daughter wants me to bring her to school every day. Right.
Oh, that's great.
And like, there's been so many other stories where, like, not my words, and I wouldn't have expected this, but people have said that Crossrope has been life-changing for them. And I didn't set out to create this life-changing product. I really didn't. I kind of regret and wish that was part of what I had aspired to at the outset. Yeah. Maybe I was afraid to dream big about it. So I think like that is really energizing for myself and for the team. And then the second part of it is like, as the team has grown, we have 35 employees now, which is mind blowing, and they care, they are inspired, they care about the customers and the relationships and what we're doing and what we're delivering. And so I think, like, I heard this story from this guy, Alden Mills, that invented the perfect push-up. He's another, former military guy. I think he was a Navy guy. And he talked this podcast about what really like amped him up and energized him was helping his team succeed and be successful in what they do. And so like, I feel like I get it now. Like, I love seeing how others on the team can kind of succeed and learn and grow in the fitness space and the business space. And so those are really, like, yes, I have, there are certainly people that are mentors and businesses and things like that I look up to, but the primary drivers really are the customers and, the employees on the team right now that kind of has me amped every Monday morning. Like, literally, I plan my week Sunday night and like, I'm ready to go every Monday morning. Like, I've got that energy. And
That's
so,
awesome.
So, yep, hopefully that answered the question. Again, I call myself out for talking too much, and here I go again.
No, this is good. This is great. I really like the passion behind that. That's awesome. Those sources of inspiration. We got time for one more, and this is the catch-all question. So what's your advice to people who have just started jumping rope and might be a little frustrated in the beginning, but they want to use that to make a change in their health and their fitness?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think the first one is that oftentimes the things that are a little bit challenging at the outset are the ones that are the most rewarding and kind of sticky once you get them, because you have that sense of accomplishment. And again, I don't bad talk other forms of exercise, but anybody can hop on a treadmill or a bike or whatever, or, and good on you if you're doing any exercise, right? Good on you. I don't think that there's this sense of fulfillment and reward by learning something that's a skill that takes a little effort. So I think the first thing is, if you can kind of get over that hump and find the right resources, find the right inspiration, that it can really pay off in a big way as a lifelong activity that you stick to that helps you, I think, just stay healthy and enrich your life and have something that can plug in to whatever your life is, whether you're traveling or at home or whatever the case may be. It's just, jumping rope is so versatile. Yeah. The second element of that is this idea that, for some people, not all, the equipment does matter. And I know there's people watching this that'll be like, oh, I know where this is going. I know this is a plug for Crossrope and things of that nature. And that's fine, right? I get it. I get that people would expect me to have that perspective. But what I'll say is that the fact of the matter, this again was not a part of the business plan. What happened is, I was at a trade show in 2013 and I had a booth. There wasn't a lot of people there. And this woman walked up and I said, hey, do you want to try out this rope? And she said, oh, no, I can't jump rope. I'm not coordinated. And I said, are you willing to try it? Just try this one. It's a little easier. So she took, at the time, our 3/4 pound rope And I kid you not, I didn't give her any input. I didn't give her any tips, nothing. Her first time using the rope, she did 50 jumps in a row and just kind of got this smile on her face. And she looked at me and she said, I guess I can jump. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that you're very confident now, but like, can I get any credit? Right? Like the rope matters. The rope does matter. So if you have ever struggled with jumping rope from a coordination perspective or gotten frustrated, lighter ropes or having the wrong type of rope is just may not be the right way to set you up for success, because you can't feel the rope, you can't time it, you're not coordinated. And so I maintain to this day that the half-pound rope or even our 1-pound rope may well be the very best uncoordinated beginner rope that there is, because you can feel the weight, the quality of the spin and the performance in the arc is really good. And so it may be the difference for somebody on this journey between trying a cheaper, lighter rope and quitting because they get frustrated, and achieving success, with the right equipment, with the right rope early on. And so again, I get it. It's a biased plug and it's a biased pitch, but I genuinely believe it. Look, if you can go out and use a lightweight rope and time it and get it right, good on you. There's a lot of people that can't do that, right? That just kind of need a little bit of extra help and need the right equipment. And if anybody can't, get that coordination, that timing down with Crossrope within 60 days, send it back, right? Full money back, everything is refunded, no issues. And that's sort of the guarantee that we're putting behind the product, even if it's used, right? There's not many products you can get a 60-day return beat up and used. But we do that because we don't want people to be worried that there's some fine print around like, 60 days, but if it's scuffed up, I won't, get my money back. It's literally no questions asked. Beat it up, use it, do whatever you can. And other than that, find a community to join. Find other people that have had your journey, that started and, got through those obstacles. We talked about the obstacle is the way. Yeah. And those are the individuals that can serve to be the motivation and the inspiration. So hopefully that's a good little tidbit or range of information for people that are interested or considering getting into jumping rope.
No, that's good. I think the equipment part, it's true. A lot of people will have no idea and they'll stop jumping because they were using a bad rope at their local gym. And it's no discredit upon the gyms, because a lot of the gym ownership or gym management, they don't know what a good jump rope is, so they'll just order the cheapest ones out there. So It is true. The equipment does matter. I can attest to that as well.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it always helps to have a second opinion back.
It does. I mean, it's like trying to play basketball with some $15 shoes versus some $70 shoes. I mean, you get what you pay for at the end of the day. Yep. Dave, thanks a lot for taking the time to share your story, wisdom, and knowledge. I really appreciate it. I learned a ton from you today. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me on, and I'll share, Jude. And you can edit this out if you want, but I want anybody who's watching this to know that one of the things that I think is so valuable and that I appreciate about what you're doing on your channel is just the critical thought, the transparency, the authenticity, and the mindfulness that makes it feel like you are probably the foremost jumper advocate, right? Like, I don't know if there's anybody else. Like, you're going to say it how you see it. You're going to, share, your opinions and your perspectives, regardless of whether or not people like it or not. And so I think it's a wonderful gift to the jump rope community to have somebody like that. And just, I genuinely wish you the best of luck, as your channel continues to grow and as you've got other people tuning in to hear what you have to say.
Hey, Dave, I really appreciate that. That means a lot. When I first started, I tried to play to the strengths, and I figured that I'm not awesome at producing or anything like that, but I do care. And so I hope that comes across. I really appreciate that. So
definitely does. Cool, man.
All right. Thanks a lot, brother.
Respect to Dave for everything that he is doing and has done for the jump rope community, and respect to him for taking the time to sit down and talk about his jump rope journey, Crossrope, and everything else we talked about. I really appreciate it. Big shout out to Dave for taking the time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, leave any comments in the comment section below about any videos or podcast guests you'd like to see in the future. And I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate your support. Jump rope to freedom. Peace.